Donald Trump didn't rage at a video this week. He raged at a truth that in America, the Constitution outranks him. 6 veterans and national security leaders reminded the military of something so basic, it's printed on every oath of service. You must refuse illegal orders. And the moment Trump called that reminder, quote, sedition, the moment he started fantasizing aloud about death penalties, he told us exactly what kind of country he wants to build. Let's get it. Hey, welcome back to another episode of American Angst. I decided I'm going to stop trying to remember which number episode this is. I got it wrong last week, but it is another episode and you're back, and I thank you for being here. Like always, thank you so much for your support. If you can, subscribe. We almost made it to 100 subscribers last week. Not quite, but let's try to get there this week. Subscribe, comment, like, share. The comments help with the algorithm. I love to talk, debate with you a little bit in the comments. If you have ideas, please share them below. Love to hear them. And listen, authoritarians don't rise when people start obeying. It's not how it works. They rise when people stop remembering that they have the right to say no. And this week, Trump showed us exactly why a simple reminder to reject illegal orders absolutely terrifies him. This video that was released is about a minute long PSA. He reacted in such a way, it's very telling in my opinion. His reaction was to call decorated veterans traitors, to call them seditious, and to insinuate the death penalty for this video. Now, hopefully you've seen the video. If you haven't seen the video, I would commend you to go look at the video, encourage you to go watch the whole thing. It's less than a minute long. I'm not going to play it here. But listen, this is not normal political rhetoric. This is the language of a man who expects obedience, not the law. And you might be saying to yourself, no kidding, or duh. I feel the same way. But listen, every single time we have to continue to come back to the table and call it out. We cannot allow it to just be another day. We cannot allow ourselves to become numb to what is happening here. This is the language of a man who expects obedience over the law. And it's not surprising in a lot of ways because you probably, like me, have seen that Donald Trump has this crush on strongmen. He has this sort of despot love, this love for despots. Like if despots had an OnlyFans, Donald Trump would be the #1 fan. I don't know what it is. Well, maybe I do. Well, I believe that I do, and that is that Donnie wants to be a despot himself. But listen to some of the things that he says about some of these despots around the world. When he talks about Putin, he says Putin is a strong leader. And Donald Trump undermined NATO, claiming that he trusted Putin more than NATO. And he's even gone to the point where he's trusted what Putin has said over our own national intelligence. Or how about Kim Jong-un? He says about Kim Jong-un, the leader of North Korea, we fell in love. This is not a normal thing to say about an authoritarian leader from another country. We fell in love. Normalizing his dynastic dictatorship over North Korea. Or how about Xi Jinping, who is the leader of China? He said, or he has an admiration for abolishing term limits in China. Trump has openly admired Xi Jinping. Or Erdogan from Turkey. He says about him, he praised his authoritarian crackdowns on the citizens of Turkey. And we're not done. How about Viktor Orban of Hungary? Trump calls Hungary the model for America. And we've seen over and over and over and over again where Trump rolls out the red carpet for Putin on American soil. We've seen where he welcomes despots and authoritarians and wicked leaders from around the world as if they are his best friends, hoping that they will invite him into the club of despots. He has a crush on this kind of quote unquote leadership. And here's the thing, what Trump is praising isn't the nation. He's not praising the nation of China or Turkey or Hungary or North Korea. No, he's praising the mechanism of control that these leaders enforce. This idea of obedience, this idea of erasure of accountability, the loyalty tests that they require of their followers, the purges of disloyal officials. We have seen so many officials in the United States of America, not in both terms. Let's just talk about this term that's not even a year old of Donald Trump. How many disloyal officials have been purged from government? Or violence as a political currency. From the man who claims that the left needs to tone down the political violence or the violent rhetoric, is the leader of political violent rhetoric. So what happens? So 6 lawmakers told the military to follow the Constitution over any one man. Trump didn't hear that was patriotic. What he heard was it was disobedience to his orders. What he heard is that he is the commander in chief and he makes the rules, and whatever he says goes. And when they said, you must not obey illegal orders, he heard, you must disobey Donald Trump. Now, the PSA, if you didn't hear it or haven't watched it, you can find it on YouTube. It's all over social media accounts out there. It's titled, Don't Give Up the Ship. And it's a standard reminder that military intel and personnel must refuse illegal orders and uphold the Constitution. Now, starring in this around 1 minute PSA, 6 different officials in our government. Let me name them for you really quick. And now I want you to think about these 6 officials and contrast them with draft dodging Donnie. Okay, Donnie the wannabe despot, draft dodging Donnie. That's a mouthful. Here's the people, the 6. Senator Mark Kelly from Arizona. Served as a U.S. Navy captain, combat pilot in Gulf War, and a NASA astronaut. Senator Elisa Slotkin from Michigan, CIA analyst, 3 tours in Iraq, served at the State Department and at the Pentagon. Representative Jason Crow from Colorado was an Army Ranger captain, fought in Iraq and Afghanistan, won a Bronze Star or awarded a Bronze Star. Rep. Chrissy Houlihan out of Pennsylvania, U.S. Air Force captain, active duty and reserve. Representative Chris DeLuzio also out of Pennsylvania. Veteran, Naval Academy graduate, public service in election security and national security. Rep. Maggie Goodlander out of New Hampshire, Navy Reserve intelligence officer for 11 years. All these people have served in one capacity or another in the military or the intel of our nation, as compared to Donald Trump, who dodged the draft because he had bone spurs. I think, if I remember correctly 5-time draft dodger. I could be misquoting that. I don't remember. That's off the top of my head, but a draft dodger nonetheless. Now, in this video, these 6 people are continually reminding military and intel officials, you must not obey illegal orders. But nothing in this video mentions Donald Trump. I've watched the video probably 5 or 6 times. Not one time do they mention Donald Trump or any specific hypothetical scenario. It simply reinforces existing law and the Uniform Code of Military Justice, or the UCMJ. Like, it is literally military law 101. Now, I did not serve in the military, but from what I understand and what I have researched, every single person who has served in the military understands this as the baseline of how they are to obey orders. That if an order is lawful, they are to obey that order. If the order is unlawful, illegal, unconstitutional, I'm saying the same thing, just different ways, they are required by law to disobey an illegal order. Now, Donald Trump called these lawmakers traitors. He accused them of seditious behavior. He wrote out on his Truth Social, in all caps, seditious behavior, punishable by death, all caps for death. He sort of framed this public service announcement as a conspiracy to undermine him personally. And he claimed that it was an attack on the chain of command. Remember, they are just reminding you must not obey illegal or unlawful or unconstitutional orders. That's all they said. Claimed it was an attack on the chain of command and asserted that it encourages the military to defy lawful orders. He's claiming that it's saying the exact opposite of what it is saying. Trump hears a reminder that illegal orders can be refused, and he interprets it as an attack against himself because he expects his orders to define what is or isn't legal. Why? Because Donnie wants to be a despot. Donnie wants so badly to be a despot. Donnie's crushing so hard on despots because Donnie wants to be invited into the club. So for Donnie the Despot, the authoritarian tell here, the through line of this idea is that he sees loyalty over legality. He values loyalty over legality. That's why he has surrounded himself with yes men and yes women, these bootlickers who will make all of these claims and literally grovel at his feet because he wants loyalty. His entire cabinet is filled with loyalists. So I'm not sure, loyalists. I'm saying that wrong. Loyalists. People that he knows will choose him over anything else. They've passed loyalty tests for him. And what happens when they speak out against the loyalty test? They become like Marjorie Trader Green, on the outside looking in. He values, or he sees, immunity as a power or tool of power. What do I mean by that? Well, he believes that the president of the United States should be immune from any sort of being held accountable for any of the actions that he takes while in office. And by any, I do mean any. So he believes that there should be this immunity, and that because he holds this power of the president, he should be immune from all things. And by the way, the Supreme Court of the United States of America made a huge error in setting precedent that supports that same idea. Again, some of these folks that were placed into the Supreme Court by Donald Trump had to first pass the loyalty test for Donald Trump. There were much more there were much more qualified candidates available to be put on the Supreme Court, nominated to the Supreme Court. But those people weren't chosen. Who was chosen? The people that will do the bidding of Donald Trump. The Supreme Court's compromised, if you didn't know that. And Donnie the Despot, the other authoritarian tell of Donnie the Despot is that he fantasizes of violence. Like he really wants there to be violence. He regularly talks about how in the quote unquote old days, back in the old days, they used to just hang them in the city square. He talks about this idea of like back in the old days, we used to beat the hell out of them. Like he makes these statements about sort of fantasizing about violence against others. A violence that Donald Trump himself couldn't actually do because he is fat, because he is unhealthy, because he is the last thing that you would think of someone who has the ability to do anything but maybe move a burger to his mouth, maybe two hands on a glass of water, just so that we make sure the glass doesn't fall. The guy embodies weakness on every level, not just mentally weak, physically weak, emotionally weak. He's weak in every area you can imagine, but he fantasizes about violence against others. Why? Because he's projecting strength because he's so aware of how weak he actually is. So he fantasizes about violence. In the old days, we used to be able to hang them in the streets. They would sedition, execution, punishable by death. He makes these declarations because of the fantasies that he has to be a despot. He wants so desperately to be a part of the club. Now, Trump's fury wasn't about what was in the video per se. It was about what the video represented. And that is the one thing that stands between him and the strong men he idolizes is lawful disobedience. He thinks he is the law. He thinks he is above the law. He thinks that anybody that stands against him is standing against the law. And that's why he called it seditious. That's why he called them traitors. That's why he openly called for their death. And that's why we need to stand against him and continue to say, no, not on our watch. We won't allow there to be a despot on our watch, and hold him accountable every step of the way. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Once again, like, share, subscribe. Hope to talk to you soon. We'll see you next week.